In the early 1970s, the Gambino crime family stood as one of the most formidable Mafia organizations in the United States. Based in New York City, this family was deeply entrenched in a wide array of criminal activities, including racketeering, loan sharking, extortion, drug trafficking, and more. Their ability to evade law enforcement, particularly the FBI, was both legendary and strategic, making them a significant force in organized crime. The rise of the Gambino family. The Gambino family's roots trace back to the earlier part of the 20th century, but it was under the leadership of Carlo Gambino, who took control in the 1950s, that the family would rise to unprecedented power. Carlo was a master strategist. He was known for his calm demeanor and shrewd business acumen. His leadership style emphasized building alliances and maintaining a low profile, which allowed him to orchestrate a wide range of criminal enterprises while avoiding the spotlight that often accompanied Mafia leaders. Carlo's reign was marked by significant expansion. He utilized a combination of intimidation and negotiation to bring other families under his influence. The Gambinos became heavily involved in the labor unions, particularly in the construction sector, which was a lucrative avenue for money laundering and extortion. This control over the unions not only filled the Gambino coffers, but also provided them with a layer of protection against law enforcement. In 1976, after Carlo Gambino's death, his underboss, Paul Castellano, ascended to power. Castellano was a more flamboyant character than his predecessor, marked by his ambition and desire for legitimacy. He modernized the family's operations, expanding into legitimate businesses, while simultaneously amplifying their involvement in organized crime. Castellano's leadership would prove pivotal, as it set the stage for both the family's growth and the conflicts to come. Evasion tactics. The Gambino family's adeptness at evading law enforcement was due to a combination of strategies that made it exceedingly difficult for the FBI to catch them. 1. Corruption and bribery. The Gambinos had deeply embedded connections within local government, law enforcement, and even the judiciary. They would regularly bribe officials, ensuring that investigations were either stalled or misdirected. This network of corruption provided them with critical information about ongoing investigations, allowing them to adapt and maintain their operations. 2. Cellular communication. As technology evolved, so did the Mafia's methods of communication. The Gambinos used payphones and disposable phones, often changing their means of communication to evade wiretaps. They employed coded language, ensuring that even if their conversations were intercepted, the true meaning would remain obscured. Their ability to switch locations frequently and use various communication methods added layers of complexity to ongoing investigations. 3. Omerta. The Mafia's code of silence, known as Omerta, was a fundamental aspect of their operations. Members were bound by an unbreakable loyalty to one another, which significantly hampered law enforcement efforts. Even when arrested, members of the Gambino family would remain tight-lipped, refusing to cooperate with authorities and protecting the organization at all costs. For upfront businesses, the Gambinos operated numerous legitimate businesses that served as fronts for their illegal activities. By laundering money through these enterprises, they created a facade of legitimacy that complicated investigations. For every restaurant or construction company they owned, there was a hidden layer of criminality that law enforcement struggled to penetrate. High-profile crimes. Throughout the 1970s, the Gambino family was involved in several high-profile crimes that drew the attention of law enforcement. The murder of Paul Castellano, in December 1985. Castellano was assassinated outside a Manhattan steakhouse in a power play, orchestrated by John Gotti, who sought to assume control of the family. This event marked a turning point in the Mafia's dynamics and highlighted the ongoing internal power struggles. While this occurred slightly later, the tensions leading up to it were rooted in the 1970s, illustrating the volatility within the organization. The construction industry. The Gambinos infiltrated the construction industry, extorting companies and manipulating contracts through intimidation and threats. Their influence in this sector allowed them to amass significant wealth and power, complicating efforts to dismantle their operations. This stranglehold on construction not only filled their coffers but also provided a means to exert influence over labor unions. Throughout the 1970s, the FBI launched numerous investigations into the Gambino family, but their efforts were often thwarted by the Mafia's intricate web of corruption and secrecy. The Bureau faced numerous challenges in gathering evidence, as many cases relied heavily on witness testimonies, which were incredibly hard to obtain. The FBI employed various tactics to combat the Gambinos, including wiretaps, undercover agents, and informants. However, the family's ability to adapt quickly and their extensive network of corruption continued to hinder these efforts. Even when informants were introduced into the organization, they often found themselves under immense pressure to remain loyal to the family. One notable operation was the Commission case, which aimed to dismantle the leadership of the 5 families, including the Gambinos. The investigation, which spanned several years, aimed to gather enough evidence to bring down high-ranking officials within the Mafia. Despite the challenges, the FBI made significant strides, but the Gambinos remained a formidable adversary. The cultural impact. The Gambino family's story during the 1970s is not just one of crime. It reflects the broader cultural landscape of America. The Mafia was often romanticized in films and literature, creating an allure that both fascinated and repelled the public. Movies like The Godfather, released in 1972, and subsequent Mafia films contributed to the mythos surrounding organized crime, influencing perceptions of the Gambinos and other families. The public's fascination with the Mafia often overshadowed the grim realities of their actions. While the Gambinos enjoyed a certain degree of infamy, their activities left a trail of violence and suffering in their wake. Families were torn apart, and communities lived in fear of retribution, legacy, and impact. The Gambino family's influence and tactics in the 1970s left a lasting legacy on organized crime in America. Their ability to evade capture and maintain power inspired both fear and respect within the criminal underworld. The FBI continued to pursue the Gambinos into the 1980s, ultimately leading to the downfall of many key figures in the organization. The later years of the Gambino family were marked by internal strife and the relentless pressure from law enforcement. John Gotti's rise to power in the late 1980 South brought significant media attention, but it also led to increased scrutiny from the FBI, culminating in Gotti's arrest and conviction in 1992. The story of the Gambino crime family serves as a compelling chapter in the history of organized crime, illustrating the complexities and challenges that law enforcement faced in their quest to combat such powerful criminal enterprises. The struggle between the Gambinos and the FBI is a testament to the enduring cat-and-mouse game that defines organized crime in America. As the years rolled on, the Gambino family's legacy continued to influence both popular culture and law enforcement tactics, shaping the narrative of organized crime for generations to come. The lessons learned from this tumultuous era remain relevant today, as the fight against organized crime evolves with time, technology, and societal changes.